Okay, I hope everybody's having a really good Saturday today. So, we've already talked about snaring and spring snares. Today I want to talk about deadfall traps. Now, this should go without saying, but I feel like I have to say it anyway. Traps in general can be very dangerous. You should not leave them unattended. They are illegal in some areas, and primitive traps are inhumane. They are not the most humane things in the world. But in a survival situation, it's survival of the fittest. And when it comes between some squirrels' life batting around in the trees versus yours, the options should be obvious. So with that said, let's get to the video. With deadfall traps, as a general rule, you want to keep in mind the weight of your target animal. So, generally speaking, you want to make your deadfall 3 to 5 times heavier than your target animal. That's a really important thing because you want to minimize their suffering. You want them to be killed as fast as possible. So the first trap I want to talk about today is called the figure 4 trap. Now, you're going to need 3 individual pieces for this trap. You're going to need your support, you're going to need your bait stick, and you're going to need your secondary support. And the reason it's called a figure 4 trap is because when it's done, it's going to look like a figure 4. So, I've got most of it made already. So, this is going to be our main support, or one of our primary supports. This piece is going to be on the ground. And you're going to want to shave this part to a nice chisel point. Your next support, this is going to be the piece that actually holds up the load. You're going to make a number 7 notch in there. And you're going to make the bottom a chisel point. And you're going to want to make the notch and the chisel point in line with each other. Your bait stick, you're going to want a number 7 notch in the back, nice and pointed and flat at the front, because this is where your bait's going to go. Matter of fact, it actually helps if you rough it up a little bit. That makes your bait stick better. Kind of like that. So, what I have not done yet is made the final notch. So, here's how it'll look. This will mount, oh, wrong one. This will go here. And this bait stick will hook on that chisel point on your secondary support there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a notch in our bait stick here. This is a good point, so we're going to hold this in our hands. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to score carefully how wide our stick is. And I'm just going to carve that out just a little bit so I know where it's at. So just like that, if you can see those. Now what I'm going to do, just for sake of simplicity, I'm going to take my saw here, and I'm going to saw down. So that what we're left with is a little notch like that. And what's going to happen is that's going to sit in here. Secondary support and our bait stick. Now, you'd think that'd be enough, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because the support stick is still rounded, so it wants to pop off. So we need to fix that. So let's take note of where we're hooking in at. And we're going to score that as well. So now let's see. Yep, that hooks in there. And that's extremely strong when you do that. So let's set it under a weight. Now if you're in soft ground like I am, you can actually take a little piece of split wood like this and just sit right there. That acts to keep this support stick from sinking into the mud. So with that supported, I'm going to go ahead and stick this in and lock in our notch here. I'm going to try and find the center of balance here. It ain't always easy. There we go. So once it's set, that thing is set. And that is a hair trigger. Now, as our animal is bopping along in here, you got our bait. It's really mushed in there or even tied on there. He's messing with it, he's messing with it. Crunch. That's the figure 4. So now let's go on to the next one. So for this next one, this one is called the Paiute Deadfall. Now this one does require just a little bit of string, not a whole lot. Might have cut a little too much there. Actually, I cut quite a bit too much. So we're going to need 2 support sticks, and we're going to need this trigger stick, and we're going to need a bait stick. And remember when you're making these traps, any of these, the spring snares or deadfalls or whatever, you really want to bait them before you set them, because especially in the instance of a deadfall, if you're baiting that while it's already set, you get a risk of breaking your finger or worse. So your bait stick is just going to be a regular standard bait stick. You don't need any special notches on it. Your primary support, just like everything else, you're going to want a wedge cut at the top. And your secondary support, you're going to want a number 7 notch. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a cord, we're going to tie it around the bottom of our secondary support. And what's going to happen is we're going to tie onto our little flat piece here. And this is going to loop around, and it's going to catch on our bait stick. So right about here looks good. So I'm going to grab that with the cord, and we're just going to tie that on there. Okay. So I'm going to take this really flat rock here. I'm going to move it over. Get this one out of the way. And we got our weight here. Alright, so I had to shorten my pieces just a little bit to make this work. So here's what I got. This is our secondary support, and our flat little piece of trigger here. And I have the primary support, and I have my bait stick. So I like Paiute traps, but they are a little finicky. But there again, so is all deadfall traps. So the first piece, or your secondary support, mounts on top of here. I'm going to try and find the best balance point that I can. This loops around and under the string. Now this is where this trap is kind of not my favorite. I've hurt myself a couple times with this. And what will happen is you'll wedge the bait stick against the back of the rock. Now, the biggest problem that I have with this trap is that it's kind of hard to set it without literally sticking your hand underneath it. There you go. And this is how the trap sets. So after you've baited your bait stick and you leave these, our animal's walking around, these bait's all the way back in here. This is the heaviest point of the rock. And once it trips, crunch. Now we'll go on to the next one. And this one is a cool one. Alright y'all, so next what we're going to do is I'm going to go for a little bit larger of a type of trap here. And this is going to be, you can scale this up for any size game you want. provided you've got rope strong enough and heavy enough weight. So what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to find 2 trees that are fairly close together, like these 2 here. You're going to want to find you a nice strong support bar. This is what's going to support the weight of the trap. You want to position this. In this case, I'm going to go fairly low. I'm going to say I'm going to aim for something the size of a groundhog. And this is where we're going to put this. So I'm going to go ahead and tie this up. Now, the next thing you're going to need for the strap, obviously, is your weight. So what I've got is 2 identically length logs here. And they are green, so they're quite heavy. And I'm going to use these as my weight. So I'm going to tie these 2 together so that way their weight can be combined. One thing to note is that up here, the front of the trap needs to be tied really well. And the back, not as much, but you still want to tie both together. So I had shot this part of the video previously, but it turned out that I had accidentally cut off my mic. So there was no audio to it, so I'm having to reshoot that part. Now, I already had the trap constructed, so I'm going to walk you through how I constructed it and how the trigger system works. Recording. So with this trap set, you never want to walk in front of it or closely behind it, because if it accidentally trips, this stick is going to whip up and it will knock the crap out of you. So this is our primary piece, and we've got a chisel point carved in on it. And then down here we have a number 7 notch, and it's tied into the back. And this bottom stick here is tied into the back. And the chisel point and the number 7 notch lock together, creating a trip stick, is what I'm going to call it. Now once this is set, you'll line all the way around it with these sticks, and the sticks will act like a fence, because you want to funnel your target into a certain point. Now what you would do is you'd put the bait all the way in the back corner, underneath the main bait stick and on it. You want to make sure that they trip that stick. Now another thing that you can do here, you can line the bottom of this trap with rocks or sticks, and what you're going to do is you're going to create an anvil and hammer effect and really squash them. So now what you're going to have is you're going to have your animal. They come in here, they smell the bait, they start messing around, they mess around in the back. And the more they're around this twig, the more they're around this trigger, the more likely they are to set it. And then once they set it off, it's over. And it broke my stick too. So with that said, guys, these can be very dangerous traps. They can break your hands, they can break your fingers. It really depends on how big you make them. Exercise as much caution as you can when you're dealing with deadfalls. They really are a dangerous type of trap. And don't leave them unattended. Don't leave them, go out in the woods, practice making them, and then go home and just leave it that way. People's animals can get caught under them, other animals can get caught under them. And the point is to minimize unnecessary suffering. So with that said, guys, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If you haven't already, hit that bell ding-a-ling icon down below. You'll get notified every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, and I know how y'all have talked about how there's always been this black animal in the background of my videos. It looks like a bear, or it looks like this, or it looks like that. That's this little fart. Bubba's been coming with me again. I'll see you guys in my next video.